This is a video tutorial for the Wekee. It will go over everything you need to know about running and making programs on the Wekee. To start, when you get to the machine, you need to turn it on. To do that, you'll come down here and flip this to the on position. Once that happens, it will start to boot up. It will take a bit of time to boot up fully. Once it gets to this point, it will ask you to press Ctrl-Alt-Delete to start. Once you get in to here, the password is Wekee, W-E-E-K-E. Enter. It'll take a moment to initialize. After a moment, the MCC main will pop up and it will start the application software. There it goes. Once it gets to this point, it is now fully turned on and ready to run. The majority of what you will be doing will be from the Assignments tab. This tab is where you'll be able to select programs to run. As an example, let's come in here and select the program to make a tray divider. To do that, we'll go in here and go to Universal Files, and then come over here and select Tray Divider. Then we'll go ahead and open that, and we can click Accept here to get it ready. Once you see that the white box with the blue hashes through it, that's how you know it's ready to start. Now let's turn on the vacuum. Right here, we'll turn on control power. This will pop everything up over here, and it'll be ready to run. To run this program, what we would do is we would grab a board, and put it in place. We can adjust these pods here via this switch. Once this switch is in, the light is on, you are able to freely move the pods. Now if we want to bring this one over, all we have to do is press this green button right here, and it'll be able to move it. Once you have the pods where you like them, you can go ahead and hold it into the corner and then click this red pedal with your foot. Now that it's placed, we'll just pat it down and then give it a little wiggle to make sure it doesn't move. If it does, you'll have to readjust it so that until the movement stops. Now it's ready to start the program. To do this, you'll go ahead and press this button here if it's in this field, or if you're setting it up over there, you can press this one. Now we'll go ahead and start. Here it's going to go ahead and change the tool to grab the right one. Now, if we want to watch it happen, we can click this F1 button right here. This raises the hood so you're able to see what's going on. This knob right here will adjust the speed of the machine in case you want it to go faster or slower. I'd recommend turning it down for hardwood and up for MDF or particle board. If for whatever reason you need to stop the program in the middle of it, click the reset button or simply step on the pad. Now that it is stopped, we will go ahead and lift up the head. You can do that by coming here to the function 3, which is for the Z-axis. Then we will go ahead and click reset, F1. Then we will hold down this button, and while pressing the up button at the same time. That will lift up the head. Now if we want to do it, move it over to the left, get it out of the way, the same thing, but in position 1. Where we do reset, F1, hold down, and then the plus button to move it to the left, and the minus to move it to the right. Get this out of the way here. Once those 2 black bars come up, that means you're able to go on and grab your board. To turn the machine off, or to shut down the control power, all you have to do is click this black button here. That will put all these down, and that will turn off the vacuum pump right there. The next thing we're going to learn how to do is how to make a simple program. To make a simple program, we will come in here to Woodwalk. This will pull open. It'll automatically pull open a new document, but if there was one already open, it'll go to that. To open a new document, all you have to do is come here, do File, New. Now that we're at this point, we can go ahead and decide what we want to do. For now, I'm going to do a dado from here to here. Then I will come, to do that, I'll come here, click this. First, though, let's go ahead and set our length and width. I want this board to be 25 inches long, which is 25 times I. I will convert it from metric to imperial, and by 8 times I. Then you can just go ahead and click the screen to save your changes. Once we get to this point, we can come here after we've selected our pocket routing. We can come here and start to put in the correct variables. The X center will be where it positions it here. So for this one, we want it centered on the board. So half of 25 is 12.5 times I. That'll put it right in the middle. But since I want it in the middle, there's another trick I can do, which is just to do L divided by 2. This takes the variable here, length, which we have our length put into, and divides it by 2. Once you do this, it'll automatically be in the center. Now, let's talk about our Y center. That will put dictate how far down it goes from our origin point right there. I will have this one being 1.5 inches down. Now we can come here and put the length of it. This is how long the dado is. I will do L for now, and that will put it from one edge to the other. I'm actually going to do L plus 10 because that will give us some room on either side where it overshoots it. And the width I will do as 0.75 times I, or 3/4. Now I can come over here and do the depth. The depth is how far deep it will cut in. I will start by putting it to 0.5 times I, so it'll cut down 1/2 inch. And then our step depth, this is how much it'll take off each pass. I want it to take off 1/8 of an inch, or 0.125 times I. So, the last thing to do is to put in the tool. I want to use tool 136. This is our 1/2 inch end mill. Go ahead and click the check mark, and that will appear right there. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the other things we can do with the pocket routing. So I'm going to come over here and grab a new pocket route, and it will automatically keep the data from our last one, but I don't want most of this. So I'm going to do a new X center of this time. I will do 6 inches. Then I want it to be 4 inches down with a length of 3 inches and a width of 3 inches. This will give us a nice square right there. Now that we have this square, we can do a couple of things to it to make it a bit different. We can adjust the angle of it here. Let's go ahead and do 45 degrees, and that will rotate it. So you can do a diamond shape this way. Another thing we can do is adjust the corner radius. So with our square, we can do a corner radius of 1.5 times I, and that will give us a circle. If we wanted a square with rounded corners, I could do corner radius of 0.5 times I. That'll give us a square with rounded corners. Over here, we can also adjust the feed. This is how fast it goes. The max is 5, and the minimum is 0.1. So you can adjust it there. If you know, for example, you want this program to be run with hardwood, you could set it to a 4. That means it will run a bit slower than if you were running it on MDF. Another little function here is next to the tool, there's this icon right here. This will pop up this window and it'll show you the names of all the tools we have in here. So if you want to do the 143, the V groove, you can come and find that, and then click OK, and it'll set it there. If you know the number, you can just type it in, it's 131, and it'll be good there. Next, we are going to talk about contour routing. So that is using this right here. So, to make one of these, we'll have to start by doing our contour definition programming. So just right down here. Once we get to this point, you can come here and start with this starting point. You can put in whatever dimension, wherever you want that starting point to be. For us, we'll do it at 10 times I and 5 times I. That will put our starting point right there. To build off of this starting point, we have a couple blocks here we can use. Let's start with the most basic, the line endpoint. All you do here is type in where you want the line to end. So this one will start at 6 times I and 5 times I. That will give us a 1-inch line right there. or I meant 11 times I, which will give us a 1-inch line. Our next one is our line length / angle. If we do this one, we can put in the length of it. Let's say we want a 2-inch line coming off at a 45-degree angle. Go ahead and click the check mark there. That'll give us our 2-inch line at a 45-degree angle. Next one is our circles. These are our arcs. These are what will give us our radiuses. The one you'll use the most often is the arc radius endpoint. To do this, all you have to do is type in the endpoint. This one will end at 16 times I, and with a y of 5 times I, the radius of 300 millimeters. This will give us just a little curve. If we want this curve to be a bit steeper, we can lower down the radius to 200, 100, 50, or even less. To make a circle, for example, all you have to do is come here, do the arc radius endpoint, and then just have it finish at the same starting point. That will give you a complete circle. This is where you can adjust the direction of the radius. So for example, if you want this radius to be flipped, you come here, like that. Now the radius is going the opposite direction. There are a couple other ways to make radiuses. In here we can also do our arc center endpoint. This one, we still put our endpoint in, but instead of a radius we put the center. This one, I want this center to be 7 times, or to be 14 times I. For example, we can do the I center of 13 on this one, and that'll give us this radius right here. Next option is the arc direction, endpoint, and angle. So this one, you put where you want your endpoint, and then you do the starting angle of it instead. This is similar to the line angle. So for this one, we'll have it end at 25, the starting angle of 15 degrees. It'll give us a nice shallow radius to there. You can adjust this angle to, let's say, 90, which will give us a bigger scoop there. The final way to make a curve is with the 3-point arc. This one is where you'll put your endpoint and the middle point. So for this one, let's do our endpoint as 24 and 5 with the midpoint of 22 times I and 3 times I. This will give us a nice half circle right there. Now, let's say we want to make a square. We'll come here, choose our starting point. We'll put this starting point back at like 8 here, so we have a little room. Then we'll come here, make a square. This will go over to 9. We'll just do a nice small square going into a curve. This one now will go bring it down to 6 into a little radius. So This one, we want the endpoint to be 8 times I, 6 times I, with a radius of 0.5 times I, which will give us a nice little half circle there. Then we'll put this back up to a 5 and an 8, which will finish off our line right there. Now let's say we want to cut out this little shape. To do that, all we have to do is come over to this right here at 7, the processes, come up here, select contour routing, and all we have to do is come down here and select the start and the end point that we want. This will then have the bit go over and cut this out. So there's a couple adjustments we can do here. First, we can adjust which side it's on. This is whether it's on the right side, like it's showing now, the left side, or directly on the middle. All of that is just adjusted with this here, and then you just click it to make it change. Now over here we can adjust our Z dimension. This is different from the pocket routing because the Z dimension is how far up from the bottom you want it. So if we want on a 19 mil board, if we want to cut 10 mil deep, we'll set our Z dimension to 9. Here, similarly, we have the feed and tool, which both function the same. But if we want to do that same stepping we did before, we'll have to come here to the plus, then click milling in steps. Now you have to put in the number of steps you want to do. So let's say we want to do 3 steps. We want to, or 4 steps if we want to cut 2.5 millimeters off at a time, with our starting dimension being 17 or 16.5. Then we come over here and click OK. The starting dimension is the first height it will cut at. So then it'll cut there, and it'll go down, cut the next one, go down, cut the final one. So, now that we know how to do this, we can make pretty much any shape. But let's start about if we want to make some drill holes. So on this board, let's say we want a line of drill holes right here. We want 6 8mm holes. Come up here, we'll do this right here, insert vertical drilling, and then we'll start with our first dimension. We'll want this at 15, 15. Then we want an 8, depth of 12. This is how far down it will cut. The diameter of 8. Then how many do we want? I want 8 of these, spaced 30 mil apart. This matrix right here will tell you how far apart they're spaced on center. So now this will give me the 8 holes right here, but I want them going this way. So to do that, all I have to do is adjust this angle 90 to down to 90. Looks like I can only fit 7 there. And voila, you now have your 8 holes there. Pretty easy. But what if I want a grid? Let's make a new program here. Let's say I want to fill this whole board up with little squares. For whatever reason, I need this board to have 20 squares in or 25 squares in a 5x5. To do that, we can use what is called a block macro. So we'll come here and we'll do insert block macro, and then you can check this because we're going to leave this for now. Then we're going to come here and make our little square so it's inside of that, like just like so. Then I want this square. I don't want to adjust the center at all. You'll see why in a second. But I want to adjust, I want this to be a 20 by 20 millimeter square that goes 5 millimeters deep, and I'm cutting this with the 131 bit. Great, so now I have my little square right up there on the origin point. Now I can come over to the block macro and we can do some adjustments. So I want this to start 15 mil in and 15 mil down to give me a little 5 mil border there. And then I want 20 of these, or I want 5 of these going in both the X and the Y direction. And I want these to be spaced 40 mil apart. There we go. There's our grid. It's as simple as that. All you have to do is insert whatever you want to make a grid into there. Then you can do your offset here. This is where your first one will be placed. And then the X number and the Y number is how many are going in the X direction and how many are going in the Y direction. The grid X is how far apart they are in the X. The Y is how far apart they are in the Y. Remember, this is all from center. Now that we know how to make pretty much any program, let's focus on how to use the machine itself. Let's start with changing the tools. To do that, we come over here to Tool Changer, turn this on, and then we'll come over here and put this guy up in place so that has somewhere to put the tool. Now we'll start with depositing a tool. For this, we'll just do 131. We'll click Deposit Tool, or click Enter. Then come over here, click the Start button. And it will go ahead and swap out the tool, pick it up, and bring it over. Once the fence and these pop back up, you can come over and grab your tool. Now that we have the tool, we can go ahead and swap it out, or we can do anything else, or we can put a new tool in. So let's say we have this tool that we just replaced the bit on. And so now that we replaced the bit, the dimensions of it have changed. So to adjust that, we'll come over here to WZDBE. This is our tool change adjustment. We'll go ahead and put in the bit number, which is 131. Come over to data, and then we can adjust the collision length and the length of the bit. Those are the main two things we want to adjust. So we'll take our bit, and the length of the bit is measured from here to the tip of the bit. So it's easiest to measure this with calipers in 2 steps. First, you'll go ahead and measure this dimension right here, which in our case is 74.5 millimeters. Then we'll go ahead and flip this up and measure it like so. Sure this is all nice and straight, and this is 36.03. Then all you have to do is add those two numbers together, and you can put in whatever that length is there. Once we adjust this to, say, 110.8, we can come here and click this check mark right here. This will save all the data, and it will update all of the programs that are using this bit. Now that we've done that, we can go ahead and pick the bit back up. So we'll come here and do 131 for our pickup as well. Click Enter. Then we'll grab our bit itself, which we can then insert right here, making sure that this white part fits in the slot nicely there. Then, once again, you'll just go ahead and click start, and it will come over and pick the bit up. Once we are done with this, we need to put this down so it'll be able to run normal programs. To do that, all you have to do is release that, and it'll fall down. I recommend you do it with two hands so it doesn't slam down like I just showed you, but I only have one hand since I'm filming this. Next, let's talk about some of these other screens. This one right here, MDR, this is where all the maintenance prompts are. In here, you can see every single maintenance thing. So let's say we want to perform a quick maintenance like this guy right here, clean fine filter. I don't know what that means, so all I'm gonna do is come here and click this. This will pop up the manual, and you can come over here to clean fine filter, and it'll show you right here exactly what you need to do step by step. Then once you're done with that, you can come here, click this right here, and then enter your name right there so the maintenance goes into the log. Now let's talk about the diagnostics. This will show you what current alarm is on the machine. So for example, if I step on this, it will say that the safety mat has detected something on the right side, right there. A common thing that will be wrong is for if someone left this open and the machine won't run. So you need to put this in the position of 1 and then click the button so the light goes away. Otherwise the machine will not run. That is most of what you need to know to run this machine. Actually, we'll do one more thing. Let's say you get a program from engineering that you need to run. First, we'll start by minimizing all of this. Then we'll come down here and open MP4. This is where we'll put the file. And then open cut lists. This is where we'll get the file from. Let's say we want, and this program just got sent down, so we'll just drag that in there, and then it'll bring that right there. Now that program is accessible from the assignments page right here.